Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. I know there's a lot of things going on tonight that you could have been doing otherwise, including the presidential debate, the first night of our new school play, and Thursday night football. So I'm glad you've chose to be here with us. And we will go through this presentation. If you have questions, you'll see where there is a Q&A on there. If you can put those questions in the Q&A, and the counselors that are not speaking can answer those questions for you. So first, we're going to introduce ourselves. Ms. Miguel.
Hi, my name is Erica Miguel. I am one of the school's counselors for the last names A through FL.
Good evening. My name is Joyce Davis, and I'm a school counselor working with students, mostly last names FO through the letter L.
Good evening. I am Danielle Marla, and I am one of the school counselors for last names M through RI.
And I am Vince Lieburn, and I'm the counselor for last names RO through Z.
Hi, and I am Patricia Perez, and I am the College and Career Specialist, and I get to work with all Branham students.
Thank you. So what we're going to cover today are sophomore year goals. So the goals that your sophomore students should be doing are they should be studying hard and doing well in their schoolwork. We know this has been difficult with COVID and distance learning, but it's important for your sophomores to keep that ninth grade message in place, that every year counts. You can't take a year off in high school in order to graduate. The second is to get involved in extracurricular activities, volunteer in the community. What post-secondary plan can your students start making? And starting a resume in Naviance, and get to know your teacher and guidance advisor. And the next slides go into more detail with these goals.
So one of the first goals there is doing well in school. And so with distance learning, we know this is getting a little bit tougher, right? Things are changing. And so what we've created is a student success resource site where you will find and your student will find a lot of resources, tips, strategies, techniques regarding time management, study skills, test taking, note taking, distance learning. I really recommend that you go ahead and explore that. We will be sharing this PowerPoint on our website, specifically in the sophomore section, but you can also go to it by going to any of our pages, the main school site, then clicking student services, then it will go to the counseling department, and on the right hand side, you're going to see student success resources. And so I really recommend using this site, even if you think that your student has a pretty good handle on some of these categories, because not only does it have strategies, but like for instance, time management, under that section, there are also like apps, right? Because some students may need additional support with like self-control when it comes to opening up certain apps in their phone, like Instagram, TikTok, whatever. And so they could download something that on a timer could block them from being too much on those sites or on their computer. So I really recommend that, you can either refer your student to that site. We also will be talking to them about this. Or, if you're thinking of ways to help your students, since, you're spending a lot more time with them now at home during instruction, that you explore some of these options, some of these tips in ways of helping them with these areas. And then in terms of graduation requirements, right, like a part of doing well or studying hard is understanding what are those requirements for graduation. In total, a student needs 220 credits to graduate. Specifically through history, that will be 2 years of that, world history, US history. English has to be done every single year. Mathematics, technically, it's only 3 years of a requirement, but we would be doing them a disservice if we didn't have them do math for that 4th year. So most of our students will do a 4th year of math as well as a senior. And we do have options for them that are for students, like maybe a student who really loves math, but there are also options for students that maybe have struggled with math historically. So just because we have them do 4 years, it doesn't mean that they're going to be struggling all those years, right? And in terms of sciences, we have 3 years requirements for that: biology, chemistry, and physics. And for language other than English, that is a 2-year requirement. And we have different options for that, like Spanish, Mandarin, French, and visual performing arts, just 1 year. So that's a course like art, right? College prep elective, only a year of that. And so that I like to explain to parents and students. A college prep elective is typically an additional year of the minimum requirements of the other categories I just mentioned. So for instance, if a student does a 4th year of a lab science, that 4th year, because we only require 3, then can become a college prep elective. Because we only require 2 years of a language and they choose to do a third, that 3rd year could be a college prep elective. So that's what we mean by that. But then we also have additional requirements. For graduation, a senior needs to have 1 semester of government and 1 semester of econ. And PE, that is a state requirement that they have to have 2 years of that. And additionally, a career and technical education course, like a CTE course. We have different options like foods, or they could go to SVCTE, right, the Silicon Valley Career and Technical Education site, and take courses there that could perhaps get them to know a career of interest, maybe also a certificate, but they could fulfill that category through those courses. And then lastly, general electives, 20 credits of that, and that could be any additional course. And so it may seem like a lot, that 220 credits is a lot to kind of hold a student to, but honestly, when we look at our seniors, a lot of them average around 250. I've seen even like the most 280 credits that a student has. So 220 is really feasible and doable. So I just want to make sure and note that it may seem overwhelming, but it's doable. In terms of the A through G requirements, you may notice like, oh, is this the same slide? It looks exactly the same as the last one. And that's because we purposely build our graduation requirements so that students hit what we call the A through G requirements. The A through G requirements are for colleges. And so they have these different categories that a student has to have the minimum requirement for admission purposes. And so a minimum, a student needs 2 years of history, 4 of English, 3 of math, 2 of science. And so if you notice, they only require 2, but we require 3, right? So our students will go above that requirement through the graduation requirements. And then they also require 2 years of language, 1 of visual performing arts, and 1 of college prep. So again, our students are kind of going above and beyond that, and that was purposeful. In terms of exam requirements, we'll be talking about that later, as well as the minimum GPA requirements, but really to be considered for a UC, the minimum requirement is a 3.0. And for California state schools like San Jose State, a 2.0 GPA was really in the past, they can still do that, but they've kind of bumped it up to a 2.5. And again, we'll be speaking about that as well.
Good evening. Just to piggyback a little bit on what Ms. Miguel said, because I know how parents' minds work, when she said that students sometimes graduate with many more credits than 220, please understand that that is not more impressive to a college. So to encourage your student to take more classes, to have more credits, is not our goal. If we just do the simple math, and I have to keep it simple, because math was not my area of expertise nor anything. If you take 6 classes for 8 semesters, you're going to end up getting 240 credits, which is already over the minimum requirement of 220. So I just wanted to talk about that because it's a nice segue into goal 2, getting involved. And as colleges look at your student in a holistic way, not just for test scores, not just for their GPA, but the other things that they do, we really encourage students looking outside of the classroom and seeing what they're interested in. I had a conversation today with a freshman parent, and I said that your student should pick extracurriculars of what's of interest to them, not what they think is going to look good, but something that they can become passionate about. colleges are not interested in a laundry list of clubs. They can see through that. They're more interested in your student picking one or two areas of interest and maybe working themselves into a leadership position within those. So, as this quote is saying, they want people to be engaged and fully engaged in one or two things, not a laundry list of activities. It's not any more impressive. And what clubs are available. I know that it's difficult right now with COVID, but our clubs are meeting and they're meeting through Zoom. So if your student is interested in joining a club, there are a number of them. You go to the Branham website and click under extracurriculars and look under clubs, and you're going to see a whole page full. But by chance, if your student doesn't see anything that's of interest to them, they can start a club. And it also tells you what particulars you need to have in order to start a new club. Website for volunteers. These are some,
Go ahead.
oh, that's you?
Go ahead, Ms. Davis.
I was kind of fit. So in terms of volunteering outside of school, again, right now it's a little bit difficult, but here we have some links to websites that talk about where your student might be able to lend their support. Obviously, during this time, you might need to check and see what some of their requirements are, but these are things to certainly look forward to in the future. And please understand that this particular presentation will be posted to our website probably by Tuesday of next week.
So as Ms. Davis had kind of discussed with the extracurricular activities, I know it has been tough with COVID as a lot of things are being canceled. Students used to be camp counselors or with sports. But as I've kind of been attending some of these conferences with the college systems, they are saying, this is a time for the students to see what they can still get involved in, whether it might be something unique, maybe they reach out to an elderly home and see if they can set up, a Zoom conversation. And so they're still kind of being able to have conversations with maybe somebody in one of those homes who maybe doesn't have a family member who's checking in on them. So there's different kind of ways that students can still get involved while it is during COVID. And this would be kind of a piece that they could really write about, in those essays that some of the colleges are going to require. So that was just a piece that they were really encouraging our students to still try to find things that they can get involved in. And they do know that it's going to kind of change the amount of years that they were maybe in band or in a sport, with things kind of being canceled. But if they can still try to get involved in something, that would be definitely a goal to try to see if they can do. So goal number 4 is just the post-secondary options. So we talk about a variety of different options when we meet with the students. We also will have, through our College and Career Center, we will have different programs, different college systems come in to do basically a virtual kind of tour. So these are great opportunities for the students to get involved with. I know that Ms. Perez sends those out. So those are definitely emails for the students to make sure that they're looking out for. But we do have a variety of different options. So the military, the trade schools, we, just so you know, have a partnership with Silicon Valley Technical Education, which is called SVCTE. Students can go to that in their junior and senior year. So if that's something that they might be interested in learning a specific trade, those would be things to definitely come and reach out to us as their counselors to discuss potentially applying for either their junior or senior year. Again, we will talk to them about community college and the transfer process through that. We will discuss our CSU and UC system. And again, as they get, into the higher grades, especially in 11th grade, that's where we're really kind of going over those requirements. So, with the CSUs, it is a 2.0 in order to be eligible for the GPA. Our UC system is a 3.0, and that is starting. we start talking to the students about the private colleges, specifically building a rapport with their teachers and with us as counselors, because one of the biggest things with the private college system is they do ask for letters of recommendation from definitely teachers, but also counselors. And so it would be great for students to start kind of building that relationship with both their teachers and with us, so that we can write a well-just essay for them. And then the last one is kind of that out of state and out of state public and out of state private colleges. And again, some of those, their requirements are going to vary. So when we're talking to the students about kind of all these different options, it really is about what is the best college fit. So we try to steer them away from kind of the typical names of colleges that they hear all the time, and more kind of focusing on what are the things at each campus that I really want to have? You know, a big school, a small school, big class sizes, small class sizes, a certain location. Do they have Greek life? Do they have sports? You know, starting to kind of make that list of what is of interest to them. So then they can really, when they're doing that research, look for colleges or look for programs that fit that criteria. Because really what we want them to look for is what is the best fit for them moving forward after they leave us from high school.
Sorry, I was muted. For goal 4 and goal 5, college and career search and resumes, we use a system called Naviance, and I'm sure you heard about it if your student started with us last year. I'm going to give you a little video that we're going to watch that will show you about what Naviance can do for you and your student.
Hello and welcome. In this video, we are going to describe what Naviance Student is and what type of features it offers our students. Naviance Student is a comprehensive college and career readiness platform that empowers students to research, plan, and prepare a pathway to success after graduation. Students will have access to a vast database of universities, colleges, and trade schools inside and outside of the United States. Furthermore, students will also have the ability to research all careers within the Bureau of Labor Statistics database. Naviance also provides 6 different self-assessments for students to take at their own pace. These assessments range from anything from personality to interest tests that will align them to a specific career or college pathway. Other features on Naviance Student include an ability to create resumes, construct a post-graduation plan, arrange a portfolio, and journal and set goals in a planner. For a more in-depth look at these features in Naviance Student, please see the other videos. Thank you.
So one of the other options for Naviance is these college super match. In the college super match, your student can go in and pick various characteristics they would like to see in a college that's in a small town, but that's a big college with Division I sports, lots of clubs, lots of other activities to do, and has the major they're looking for. So they put in all of the geographical and categorical information, and it will then spit out a list of colleges that best suit their match, hence being the super match. They can then choose to search those schools a little more in depth. And then the information in there will tell what it requires to get into the school, what the average GPA for a student applying to the school is, and different activities like that. There's also a thing about careers called Road Trip Nation. And the Road Trip Nation down here is an interview archive with different people that have had different careers, and what classes they took in college, how they got through college, how they built their career up, and what worked and what didn't. So if your student has no idea what they want to do, watching some of the Road Trip Nation interviews will give them some deeper understanding of what other people have done. Naviance is also available for parents. So you can, as a parent, send me, Vince Lieburn, an email, and I can send you your login information for Naviance. You will not be able to add colleges or add careers to your students' lists. Only your student can do that, but you can do all of the same research, and then you can sort of see what they have done on Naviance to that particular point. That brings us to goal number 6, questions. And these are our email addresses, so you can get my email address right there to send me an email about Naviance. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to type them in now. I guess you could also verbally ask at this point in time. And if you don't have any questions, that ends our presentation.
There are questions in the chat.
So I know one of the questions is, will we be meeting with the students individually this year like we did last year? I know we pulled in every single student. With it being distance learning, we are doing our best to try to be meeting with the students, but doing the formal 10-minute meeting that we did with all of the sophomores last year, that could be potentially a little bit difficult for us just with distance learning and not really trying to pull them out of their classes just because they are in class a shorter period of time with the distance learning schedule. And so we do all have appointment slots set up on our calendars where students can actually schedule either a 10-minute meeting, a 15-minute meeting, or a 20-minute meeting. And so I would highly suggest that your students do that to try to meet with us.
One of the other questions was about, do students have access to Naviance? And so they do. Everything is a single sign-on, meaning that they don't need to have a separate password or username for anything. They can just access Naviance using the same password that they use for their Gmail, for Canvas, for anything. and we can help them with that. But the student resources site from the district has all of the dashboards, all of the systems that we use that a student can just click on, and it'll take them right to whatever they're wanting to do, like Aries, Canvas, Naviance. So they have access to that.
Another one of the questions had to do with, will students be seeing this presentation? Actually, they'll be seeing something very similar. We're working on videoing all the grade level for them, so they will be available for students to see most of the information that you saw tonight and maybe a little bit more. Another one was that someone has said that their student hasn't seen their counselor yet. Well, that is a lot to do with what happened with COVID and the shutting down of school. As Ms. Morella said, we each have calendars. We have links that the student can go to and set up a 10 or 15-minute appointment. I'm saying to people right now, I'm really trying to reserve my 15-minute appointments for seniors, but I certainly am welcome to, your student is welcome to click on and make an appointment with me. Or any of us, not just me, any of us.
And I do know that there's been a few questions in the chat about the PSAT. The PSAT was not offered in the fall. As with COVID, it has been difficult to offer any of the PSAT, even the SAT and ACT has not really been offered for our students. And so at this point, we are looking at not offering, I believe, the PSAT for the 10th grade. They will hopefully have the opportunity to take it as 11th graders next year. And that is what we're hoping for, but we just are waiting for more information from College Board with the pandemic.
So there's another one about when do students typically get started looking for colleges and selecting colleges? Not until junior year, typically. That's when they really start upping their searches and doing visits, college visits, and visiting Miss Perez more often.
I will add, students are welcome to ask those questions earlier than that, but that is when I think it does start to get a little more serious, and their questions are very much more specific as opposed to just exploratory. So there was a question earlier in the Q&A if students could attend the college visits. Absolutely, those are open for all Branham students. Your students will have to register through Naviance to be able to access the meeting link. But yeah, they are definitely, in any workshops that happen, they're open to just about everybody unless they are set specifically for like seniors.
Your students did have a brief introduction to Naviance last year, but you might want to check in that assessment section to see whether they did their Strength Explorer, it's called, survey. And if your student has not done that, it would be something we would recommend for your student to do this year. And that is one thing we will go over with your student during their version of this presentation. Danielle, did you talk about College Board?
I'm not sure what they're asking, but I think, again, like we are just waiting for College Board to give more information on the PSAT and offering it. Right now, Branham's goal is to try and offer, if we can, the PSAT for the juniors. And then again, we would be looking at hopefully trying to offer your students within their junior year. But again, we're just waiting to get more information from College Board and sticking with the guidelines within the county and the state with COVID. So at this point, we don't really have too much of an answer. There has been some questions in the chat about if other schools are offering the PSAT. I don't know. Typically, you know, the students would take the PSAT at their home site. And so I don't know if other schools, if they are offering it, would allow. My assumption would probably be no. But like I said, our goal is to hopefully, if COVID is in a better situation by the time that they would be juniors in that October month, would be to offer it to them at that point. There has been a question about if should they wait until their junior year to get onto Naviance? No, they should be getting onto Naviance now. One of the biggest things that we usually recommend to students, or I definitely do when I meet with them, is to get in there and use the resume tool. So a lot of times students will do a lot of activities starting in their 9th grade and even in their sophomore year. And then when they're seniors, we ask them what they did. And a lot of times they're struggling to remember how many hours they did something, or what kind of, leadership qualities or what leadership tasks did they do. So it's really great for them to get in and just start filling that out. So then that way it's almost a tracker for them for everything that they've kind of done within high school. And so then when it goes time to go and fill out those applications in their senior year, then they have that document kind of ready to go. Another question was about when is the typical time for college applications, and that is in the fall semester of their senior year.
And yes, your student can access Naviance from just about anywhere. They have an internet connection. There's a question in here, Patricia, about most of the college visits are during school hours.
So they are scheduled. There are a couple of conflicts because this year the visits were done in collaboration with all of the schools in our district. And so there are a couple of conflicts, but for the most part, they are not during class time. They are typically at 8 in the morning before classes and at 2:45, or on Wednesdays when it's student choice. That's when the majority, we have about 5 visits every Wednesday that students are able to attend.
And then there was a question about the class video that we are going to put together. It won't be shown in a specific class. We are actually going to be posting the video in the BHS classroom that we all created in Canvas. So for your students, it would be the BHS class of 2023. We will be loading the video in there and then sending out an announcement to all the students to please go and check out that video. But that's our plan as of right now for the class videos.
There's a question about SVCTE and how it works. Your student picks a class they would be interested in, and they can either get bused over to SVCTE during a morning session or an afternoon session. So they take 4 classes on our campus, and then they're at SVCTE every day for 2.5 to 3 hours taking classes there.
There are some about, I think, just making comments on things being pretty stressful. And yes, but it's a mindset. If you are stressed and strung out and upset and anxious, so will your student be. So I'd suggest that people do some mindfulness and just relax. As they evolve through the grade levels, their maturity will be so that they can handle it. And as we talk to them as their counselors and get to hone in on what are their particular interests, then the searches can get a little more specified. Some students who are ambitious and taking periods 1 through 8, sometimes you do have to make some decisions, and sometimes there will be some sacrifices. But as we are learning in this age of COVID, we're basically recording almost everything. So if a student is unable to be live or present for a certain presentation, I think that they'll be able to access it later on when they have more time.
I did want to, somebody asked in the Q&A about college visits. I do not recommend, students should not be missing class to attend those visits. First, as 10th graders, you're gonna have plenty of time for visits later. Also, a lot of the colleges now, because of the pandemic, they have other sessions and virtual opportunities directly through their websites as well, where a lot of times they're offering the same information that they are for our visit. So I do not recommend students miss class, and they won't be excused to attend those college visits.
Well, again, thank you very much. If we've answered your question, you're welcome to exit. Remember, this will be saved on both the Branham website and on the class of 2023 Canvas web page, or Canvas page.
There is a question on West Valley courses being offered every semester for dual enrollment. Yes, they are. We are finalizing the list of classes that we will have for the spring semester at Branham. And so once we have that in the schedule, we will be sending that out for students so that they can apply to take the potential courses that we would have on our site for the spring semester.
Yes, middle college will still be available next year for juniors. If your student is interested in middle college, they should reach out to their counselor.
And then there was a question about if they took a summer course at West Valley and it's the same classes being offered at Branham during the school year. We only give high school credit for the dual enrollment classes that are the fall and spring semester through West Valley. If a student takes a course over the summer through West Valley for enrichment or for concurrent enrollment, they do not receive credit.
The West Valley classes, you should be able to see progress through Canvas. It's a different Canvas. It's the West Valley Canvas. So your student should be able to talk to their teacher, and they should have their own Canvas page with that particular teacher.
But you as a parent would not have an observer account with the West Valley Canvas account because they are considered adults. And so they would be the only ones who have access to that Canvas account for the West Valley courses.
Do you want to explain middle college?
So middle college is through West Valley. It is open for our juniors and seniors. They apply usually in the month of February of their sophomore year. And that is where they would basically be taking all of their courses over at West Valley. They would have 2 high school courses, but again, it would still be taken at West Valley's campus. And that course would be the English course and their history. And then they would be taking 2 college level classes. So the middle college counselor would help the students figure out what requirements they still need to meet in order to meet the graduation requirements. And then they would be looking at classes that would satisfy that. So again, it would be 2 high school classes and then 2 college classes, but they would all be taken through the West Valley campus. And then do sophomores take the SATs? No, they are usually taking the PSAT, and then it is usually in the spring semester of your junior year that students would be taking the SAT and ACT.
There's a question here about what category does engineering fit under and what category does freshman science class fall under. So engineering, if you're speaking about Project Lead the Way courses, those fall under the CTE category, the career technical education category, because it is helping those students get more involved and more information about that career pathway. And so that's what that one falls under. The freshman science class, which is biology, that falls under that category of biology. It's hitting that first year of science, then it's chemistry, then it's physics. And so that's how those fit within those requirements.
There is no set limit for how many AP classes a student takes to get typically for college. It really depends on the college they're going to go to and what their interest is. We don't have many students that graduate early who would want to leave us. But you know, I guess maybe students through middle college and that could graduate a little early.
Typically,
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, typically a student who wants to graduate early will decide to do something like the CHISPE, right, which is an exam to meet the equivalent of a high school diploma. And that's typically for students who just high school is not the best fit, middle college, those other programs also are not a fit. They just want to be done and move on with other things. It is a hard exam because they are being assessed with all those categories that they would have learned. But it is possible to do that. They have to be of a certain age. And so if you are curious about the CHISPE, it can be something you just Google, or you can reach out to any counselor and we can let you know more information as well, or your student if they're curious about that.
Yes, sophomores can take SAT subject tests if they feel like they're proficient in that category. Biology, AP biology is an upper class, and as a senior, if they're interested in going into the biological fields or the medical field, taking AP biology is a good choice. You can see a list of the AP classes, I believe, on the webpage under each department.
Yes, and our course catalog is on the website as well. So that would also list all of the APs that we offer.
Erica, I don't know if it's a question or a statement in the question and answer in Spanish. I think it's thanking us. My very poor Spanish.
And I know somebody raised their hand. If you want to just go ahead and type your question in the chat box, we can go ahead and try to answer that question for you.
For the individual who said they came in late, yes, we will be posting this presentation. It should be up on the website. We'll say by Tuesday.
No, students will not be taking the PSAT this year. SATs for sophomores, for most schools, they're probably not going to be taken when they go off to college. But yes, the students will have the opportunity to take the SAT or the ACT in the future.
For volunteer hours, there was a question about that. We don't require volunteer hours to graduate. I know that some districts, other districts in the area do. So what I would recommend is that your student either uses kind of that resume tool in Naviance, or that they use like an Excel document and kind of tracks their volunteer hours that way.
I believe there are a couple of clubs on campus that will require hours, so they may provide some kind of form to track those hours for you as well. But yeah, we don't have anything for you.
Correct. The UCs are getting rid of in 2024 the SAT and the ACT as an entrance requirement. The reason why maybe the PSAT is for private schools, out-of-state colleges. The CSUs haven't mentioned whether they're going to get rid of the SAT or the ACT, and National Merit Scholarship Award.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Volunteer
hours.
experience. Yes. Hours don't have to be recorded, but absolutely volunteering is great to have on a college application. This is one of those things that was kind of brought up earlier. A really, really long list of all these different things. while it's great for the experience, showing like consistent volunteering within a certain kind of area would actually be preferred. But yeah, volunteering is great. We definitely recommend that your students find something they're interested in and get that experience. But yeah, there's no set number of hours that they would need to apply to any college.
And we did actually have a slide here. I don't know if maybe we could go back to that about like if the school offers volunteer opportunities, we do, right? Clubs offer that. They have the opportunities that they create. But if your student maybe doesn't have or not a good fit with those, we listed some websites that students can use for to find volunteer opportunities that they can use. If the SATs are still necessary, why are the current juniors being given a second opportunity instead of the current sophomores? So right now things are different in regards to the graduating classes, right? So it is optional for the students who are graduating this year. It is optional for juniors. CSU has not said whether it will be optional for them, right? And so right now it is very important that you do research, ask us, right? But also be mindful that given the situation in terms of the pandemic, some of these test optional, test blind things might change given what is happening. And so we just, want you to keep in mind that because of what's happening, there are going to be some differences amongst classes as to the requirements given the situation.
Does anyone know the answer to the question about NHS? I believe you can join any year, right? Or do you have to join at a certain point? That would be a question for the advisor, the NHS advisor. That's what I would recommend.
So go on the webpage and pull up the NHS club and contact the advisor to see if people outside can join.
The club page that Branham has now that Ms. Hillman was working on is really, really awesome. It's a great resource for you to get all of that information about NHS, but all of the other clubs available at Branham. There's a lot of great stuff in there.
The major requirement is above a 3.0 GPA. To pay for AP tests, talk to your teacher, your student's teacher, but you pay in the book room with Miss Fleming.
Are there any further questions for tonight? So at Branham, students have the opportunity to take AP classes. It is open enrollment, so we do have an AP contract that students do sign when we meet with them for programming. And the expectation is that if you take the AP class, then you would be taking the AP exam, and those exams are always in the beginning of May. They will be on one certain day, and that schedule is usually put out in the fall semester so that students are kind of aware of when that exam is being taken. But that is the expectation if you are taking the AP class, that then you would be taking the AP exam. And the whole point of taking the AP exam is trying to score high enough to where you potentially could be receiving college credit depending on where your student is applying for college. They all take those AP exam scores differently, but that would be the goal of taking the exam.
One of the questions here, is there a benefit to taking college level classes over AP? And so for instance, yes, if your student takes a community college course, either in the summer through enrichment, which will now count towards credits or GPA bumps for us, or through our dual enrollment classes with West Valley College in the fall and spring, which do count for credit for us and a GPA bump. Yes, the advantage is that if a student receives a C or above, they still earn college credit no matter what, versus an AP course. There are some colleges that only give college credit if a student receives a 4 or a 5, not even a 3, even though a 3 is passing, but some are getting a little bit more demanding as to what they will take for actual college credit. So that would be a benefit, is that community college classes or any college class C or above, you get credit, but with APs only sometimes 4 or 5 scores get you that.
So we are coming close to 7:30. We will be ending the presentation and closing it down in the next couple of minutes. So if you have any more questions, ask them now.